Hi, I'm Daz. Today I have an Hitachi TRK 1255ER. I think I picked this up at a radio swap meet and it's been sitting on the shelf for a little while now. It's a nice monaural radio cassette. It's got a nice meter. It's got shortwave on it, which is unusual for a radio cassette. Condenser microphone. There's a tape counter as well. Looking at the sockets on the side, there's a speaker on off switch, mic. Let's see if I, yep, that's better. Mic, remote, external speaker. There's chromium dioxide switch as well. Bias AB, so I suppose that's the beat switch as it were. And there's a DIN socket at the bottom as well, and the mains here. So a good lot of sockets on this radio. I was looking for a clue of when it was made, and this sticker on the back is a bit of a clue, because I think the BBC changed their frequencies in about 1977. Let's have a quick look on top. Oh, let's move the handle. There we go. It's got band switch, tape selector. It's got sleep. It's that type of sleep where you put a cassette in, and when the cassette auto stops, it turns the radio off. There's a tone and a volume. There's a pause control as well, so that's quite nice, and a nice aerial, and that looks like it's in original condition to me, so that's good stuff. Let's have a look at the battery compartment. That looks like 6 D cells, I think. Yeah, the sponge has gone, hasn't it? That needs replacing. There's a 220 2 volt 40 volt switch in there. Now I've dropped bits of sponge all over the floor. There. Right, I've given it a quick run through, and the radio works, although it started to motorboat on me. But after I'd flipped the band switch back and forth a couple of times, that stopped. So presumably we need some contact cleaner in there. Let's just power it up. So the radio works, apart from motorboating I've had, and I guess some contact cleaner fixed that. The volume and tone are a bit noisy as well, so we're going to need some contact cleaner. Just run up the cassette player, and that appears to play okay. There we go, that's playing. But what I've noticed is, if I try and review, no, that's not going anywhere, is it? Fast Q, yeah, just about. Let's try rewind. No, that's not wanting to go anywhere, is it? Fast forward. Oh, yeah, that's a bit. Okay, so I think what I'll do is I'll get it to bits next, and we'll see what's in this beast. I had a look online. Someone suggested it was 1974. It also goes incredibly loud for something that's got a 6 volt amplifier system, so I wonder if it's, could it be push pull? We'll find out when we what I mean by push pull is it sort of an H-bridge type arrangement. I wonder if it's that. Is it too early for that? So I reckon mid 70s from what I can gather, and possibly a couple of watts output on the loudspeaker. But it feels awfully heavy. Oh, that is heavy, and it's got no batteries in, so I think this is a well-made piece of kit. I would imagine it would be a radio cassette more in the mid-range, but right, let's get it to bits. Okay, so back is off, 4 screws and we were in. So what have we got here? Some corrosion on the battery terminals, the looks of it. They look quite corroded. Someone's done a bypass on there, the looks of it. So radio circuit, the aerial's coupled on here on this metal post, the looks of it, the FM aerial. This is supposedly got an IC in it according to the thing at the front. Now, so what have we got? That's the mains transformer. I can see a large smoothing capacitor here, so that must be the mains, must be on this tape recorder board. I can see a symbol for a transformer, so maybe it's got a transformer on the output. Oh, I can see, yeah, a pair of transistors there. I bet they're heat sinked as well. I can also see an awful lot of dust in there. I don't know if you can see that on the camera. We need a bit of a dusting. There is a power plug on here, so presumably that board comes out. Yeah, sort of looks sort of 70s, doesn't it? Certainly. Looking inside it. Right, so how do I disassemble it further? That's a good question. Keep taking the screws out until it comes apart. No, that's not a good idea. Right. Okay, so the board came off. There was 3 screws in the back and 1 on the side panel with all the sockets on, and carefully undoing the cables, and it's come apart now. Yeah, this has got a fairly substantial output stage in. Yeah, that's a big transformer, that, and fairly beefy pair of transistors complete with a heatsink, so no wonder it can push a couple of watts. That's pretty good. So I imagine that's the output circuitry. Now then, there's an IC here. Got a cloth down so I don't scratch. So yeah, it's Hitachi's own IC there. I see a germanium diode, so perhaps that's for the automatic gain control. There's the record playback switch, and there's also a power switch on the board, so care not to bend that, I guess, while I'm working on it. Okay, so flip the board out of the way. Right, what's this switch? One thing I didn't actually note where that switch come from or what it does, but never mind. I'll have a look at that. I think my worry with these type of radio cassettes is that I'm going to snap on the wires and not know where they go. Right, this is a mechanism. Motor, I guess that's the take-up idler. And that one there, what's the betting that's something to do with fast forward and rewind. Let's see. That feels like play. I know that's rewind. Ah, right, so that engages there on rewind. Holding a camera and trying to push buttons at the same time, not easy. Oh, I see. So this idler here looks like it's to do with fast forward and rewind. Yeah, that's fairly stretchy, isn't it? Okay, that's good then. So, okay, so I've nearly got the deck out now. I've ended up taking off the little pause knob. What surprised me was there was also a little rod that was sticking up that had to be unscrewed from near the motor. That hole was there. And I've also decided to take off this plastic control that flicked the switch on the board that switched between radio and tape recorder, because I thought that was right across the deck, and I thought, no, I'm going to catch that. So the deck's almost out, so I'm just lifting it out now. Very gingerly have it balanced now. I've got the mechanism out. I've got it in rewind, and it's slipping quite nicely. There's rubber on this take-up spool, and that one doesn't look too bad, but Not sure how well this will show, but I can see cracks on that one, so it needs a clean, doesn't it? As does the pinch wheel. It's more foamy bits, unfortunately, have started to deteriorate. Red belt's interesting, isn't it, for the tape counter? Don't often see a red belt or something different coloured. I've got a tape recorder I saw a white belt in, but yeah, so there's the mechanism. So I wonder if a little bit of a clean up might get these gripping a little better, or am I going to reach for the packet of belts and try and see if this rubber bit will come off? I don't know yet, let's see. Okay, I'm just experimenting with the rubber tyre. This is the rubber tyre off the take-up spool. It's quite badly cracked and it's very, very hard. Now, I could see if I can try various chemicals to see if I can get the hardness out. But what I'm just experimenting with at the moment is a O-ring again. I've got a whole pile of O-rings. It's not perfect because I don't think the outside of the take-up spool plastic is exactly straight. So you can see there's a little bit of movement. Now, that obviously doesn't help with woe and flutter, but it may be okay. What I'm going to do is run a very fine bit of sandpaper around the edge of the O-ring because it isn't flat, and just see if that improves matters. But what I am getting is an incredibly good grip now, in fast forward and in with the normal play mode, which it's what it's in now. So this may be a solution just to get me going. Means the other rubber bits are not ideal condition really, but there we go. Well, that's one way to bypass the record playback, the motor switch, closed peg. This is an interesting mystery I can't understand. The take-up spool rubber is really cracked and gone really hard, yet the supply spool reel, I've cleaned it up. I've used a little bit of aggressive chemicals, used a little bit of methylated spirits on a cotton bud just to clean it and degrease it, and actually now it's actually slipping on the plastic wheel in the middle to this rubber idler. The mystery to me is, how come we've got two rubber wheels which are no doubt made identically, yet one's deteriorated terribly and yet the other one has still got some spring in it? That's a bit strange really. I don't understand that, but there we go. I haven't got enough hands really, but there we go. That's pretty good. The noise seems to be the cassette, but let's rewind and fast forward. So we seem to be spooling quite nicely now. It's even good right at the end of the tape, so yeah, I think you might be able to get away with this modification using the O-ring. I think I might just try and sand a little bit of a flat into the O-ring so there's a little bit more surface to grip, but I think this will get me going with the fast forward and rewind. I've got a piece of fine sandpaper between the brake and the O-ring, and I'm just putting a flat in it, also making a bit of a mess, so I'll have to clear up all the bits of rubber, but hopefully that will give me a little bit more grip and hopefully minimise the slight unevenness of the drive wheel. Just taking out the flywheel now so I can just lubricate the bearing. It's the take-up idler, and give this all a clean now. Pot metal looks fine, a little dirty, but see a little bit more of the mechanism now. It took me a little while to figure out how this take-up idler come out, but if you can see, there is, if I can point in the right direction, a little clip here, and that goes through this metal chassis here and holds the wheel in, because I kept looking, well, where's the clip? And that's where it is. So I'm going to have to push this down and push that little clip out to reseat it. I couldn't get the flywheel out without taking this off. Well, that's an unusual problem I haven't come across before. Have replaced the belt, tape counter not going round, and it seemed the bearing was seized. So I've been running it round for some while. A little drop of oil, not ideal with plastic parts, but not sure what else I can do. Obviously a little concerning because it's attached to the take-up spool, but what I've done is I've put a loose belt on purpose, so even if I stall it, it can continue to turn. Obviously we don't want the take-up spool stopping, because with this type of cassette player it won't detect that the front spool's not going round, and you'll end up with your tape everywhere. So, but I've cleaned the heads now. Now I've greased all the parts that need greasing, then I cleaned up all the rubber parts and then cleaned the head and the pinch wheel. There is a slight ding in the pinch wheel, I think you can see it at the edge, but it doesn't appear to be where the tape actually runs, so I think I might get away with that one. Okay, so it looked like we were getting along quite successfully. Then I spotted this slight error. I'm putting it in review, and what should happen is, just find the bit, there we go, it's just pushing the idler wheel up so it disengages the take-up spool. Unfortunately, because my rubber wheel is slightly bigger, it isn't, so I'll have to have a think about that one. Well, after a lot of sanding, there we go, we are there. I guess if you had a lathe to do rubber it would be much more simpler, but yeah, that looks good. Right, get the right stuff. I'm going to spray the record playback switch and the mode selector now. I have sort of got gravity with me, plus a lot of tissue, just to make sure it doesn't go everywhere, and it has still. Never mind. Right. Well, that should hopefully solve that one. Okay, so truthfully, I've had to have the board off a couple of times because I discovered I needed to push the switch back with a screwdriver, the one that was on the PCB, and get it in the right place. And then I found I trapped a wire, so I had to pull it back out and get the wires in the right place. But I'm just doing the switches, and I've done the potentiometers. So hopefully no more crackling. I guess I've got to put this back in. Now, also then got to cut out some foam. There we go. I think it lines up with this wire somehow, so there's the switch in the right place. Yes, now I've got to find out what I've done with the screw with the washer. I dropped the washer somewhere earlier. There, it's here somewhere. Thought we'd have a look at the bias again, I'm just curious. Alright, let's just zero that in. Okay, that is beat or bias position B. That is A. Definitely a change of frequency there. And the chrome switch, I can't hear any difference on playback, so I don't think it does anything to the equalisation, but when you put it in chromium dioxide, it increases the power of the bias. So that's what it seems to do, from what I can fathom out. There's only 2 wires on it, so there we go. So that's what's going on, so at least we know it's AC bias anyway. Given the amount of dust that I've got inside the radio and all the deteriorated foam, I decided to take the radio section out and just give it a clean. I've also taken the loudspeaker out, and that looks reasonably okay, just a bit dusting. I can't see a date code on this one, but I did see 7312 on the other board. So yeah, 1973-74. Okay, so I'm all back together now. So what's the most difficult thing? I think replacing that rubber idler on the take-up spool, and then trying to flatten it and get it to the right size. I think that was the most difficult bit in getting my radio cassette working. Anyway, I've had a look at most of the functions and it all seems okay now, so I guess it's time to do a test recording. The speaker monitor switch also switches between internal and external microphone. That's interesting. So when you're using the internal microphone, the loudspeaker is definitely muted, but it isn't when using an external one, so it's a case of having to remember to turn the volume control down in this case. Right, let's reset the counter. Let's try making a couple of recordings. Testing, 1 2 3. Testing, 1 2 3. This is a test of the internal microphone. This is a test of the internal microphone. Okay, let's pause it and flick the switch. And turn the volume down. There we go. I'm using a microphone with a switch, so I can start it off. Here we go. Testing, 1 2 3. Testing, 1 2 3. This is a test of the Hitachi TRK 1255 ER using an external microphone. End of test. Testing, 1 2 3. Testing, 1 2 3. This is a test of the internal microphone. This is a test of the internal microphone. Testing, 1 2 3. Testing, 1 2 3. This is a test of the Hitachi TRK 1255 ER using an external microphone. End of test. I'm not sure I think much of this microphone, because I don't think the sound quality is much better with it, but good, that proves that the recording's working, and my review and cue are working, although I don't really like
1 2 3. Testing.
Seems to be a lack of braking there, but one thing I've noted is that the meter only works on record mode, but it's very useful to have that to confirm you've got recording. It doesn't function on the radio tuner at all. The radio tuner in this radio is really good. FM is very sensitive and so is medium wave, so it's a good radio in it. I can hear stations that a lot of ordinary 6 transistor radios definitely can't hear, so it's a good radio in this set. Let's just have a little tune. There we go. Bit of YouTube library music. I'd say the whine and flutter isn't too bad. There's another strange thing about this set that I can't quite understand. I'm not sure why it's like this, but if I turn the radio on, I don't know if you can hear that, but it's reproducing the cassette player and the radio simultaneously. Yet when it's in the sleep mode, it only reproduces the radio. That's an interesting thing. I don't know if that's by design or whether there's a short somewhere in the circuitry or the switching circuitry. So that's an unusual one, but not sure. Anyway, I think I've got a nice radio cassette I can now use. I'm using it on the mains. That's okay. I've given it an insulation test. Always a little worrying when you're putting 500 volts through something like this, but as I'm using this piece of equipment, I just want to make sure, but there we go. Anyway, thanks for watching, and it's another toy for me to play with.